My name is Solomon Gomendo. I'll be presenting on the Global Trends to 2030. This is an attempt to try and unpack the future trends in the global environment in terms of political situation, the social, economic, and quite a number of factors that are going to affect how we live, even the environmental changes. So my presentation is in 4 stages. It will be first an analysis, which is an overview of the global trends. What are they, and what are the assumptions that are coming forward? And then we're also looking at what governments need to change, and also how they need to change. And then finally, then taking the picture clearer home to Higher Life Foundation and saying what does that mean for us, what should we do? So I will then start by looking at the 3 scenarios that have been brought forward by scientists, researchers. They're saying we will have mega trends. Some are saying game changers and potential worlds. So I'll just briefly run through those 3 trends. On mega trends, we are expecting individual empowerment to a greater extent. There's going to be accelerated reduction of poverty. There's going to be growth of the middle class. There's also going to be greater educational attainment. There's also going to be use of technology to a great extent in manufacturing, in industries, wherever possible. There's going to be a marked increase in use of technology. And in addition to that, we also have the healthcare advances that are going to come aboard in trying to come up with different medical theories and a medication that will improve the standard of living. We also look at diffusion of power under mega trends. Here we're saying there will be no single country or power horse across the whole world. As we look at it currently, the US is more like playing a leading role. We also look at the possibility of demographic patterns. Going to be a shift. Instability will narrow across the whole world, and there's going to be economic decline in aging countries. In addition to that, if we look at it at a total picture or a bird's eye view, 6% of the world population will live in urban areas, which is a gradual move towards urbanization in the coming 10 to 15 years, which is a gradual change to how the setup is currently. So we're also looking at food, water, and electricity or energy. So there's going to be increase in the population, and there's going to be a constraint, a squeeze or scarcity of these resources because of the growth in demand. So this basically explain the mega trends that will possibly be the common issues that will affect the whole world. Then if you look at the game changers, we are saying potential for crisis globally, which will affect the economy, is a likelihood. Volatility due to imbalances created from resilience from some other states. This might also mean that the global economic order is affected to a greater extent. That also has issues which will then affect the governance gap because of the increased number of players trying to control the world economics. But they are coming from different angles. There's going to be discordant values, and this will complicate decision making. There won't be an overall view or a one-sided common goal. People have different ways of approaching issues. So this will affect the global and world trends, and that is also an important factor that we also have looked at. There is also potential for increased conflict. I think because of these imbalances, it is a potential interstate and also interstate. So we're looking at the social pressures that will then emanate from there. There's also wider scope for regional instability because of all these. If you look at, for example, in the Middle East, in South Asia, we're saying isn't there potential for spillover and the creation of a global insecurity across the whole world when these insecurities move on to other states? Then potential wars. Here we're saying 4 scenarios: best case, worst case scenario, stored engines. This is a worst case scenario where risks of increased interstate and a conflict of a magnitude that could affect globalization can happen. So this might then stop the progress that is potentially supposed to be coming through. So this is what explains the stored engines. Fusion, it's a best case scenario. We're looking at potentially a collaboration of many states, and in particular, it's a collaboration of the biggest or leading states, China and US, coming together on a wide range of issues. So it's like transforming the world in a positive manner. Genie out of the bottle. Some countries become bigger winners than others. So that creates imbalances within the system. And when inequalities are there, there's normally and generally a conflict, social tensions that might come up as a result. Then the non-state world. This is driven by new technologies, and we have non-state actors coming on and trying to control and improve the global distribution. But we are saying all these are potential events that could happen under potential worlds. And then we are saying, from this analysis, globally the population is going to increase from 7.3 billion currently to 8.3 billion. It's a real huge growth. And if you look at it, 8% of current population is above 65 years old. But going into the future, 13% of that population will be above 65%, which is like the increase in the life expectancy. And this is going to put pressures on the pensions that are also going to be increasing. If you see the 1.3% of GDP in developed countries, then 2.2 in developing. So all these are resources that are required to push forward the generational transition, the economy, the social and infrastructural needs. So there's going to be a bit of a strain on across the whole world on resources. So if you look at it, the aged population doubling by 1 billion by 2030, it's a huge movement. And birth rates improving from 24.3 per thousand down to 16.1 per thousand. It's also a huge improvement. And that will also attribute the aged population there increasing because of the reduced death rates. 90% of global youths will reside in developing countries. And these are also countries where there is basically there are challenges, and this is also another economic pressure. Globally, 15 to 24-year-olds make up 40% of unemployed population. And that's a huge percentage. And in China, to be specific, 1 million young people enter the labor force every year. This is a huge figure as well. So we're saying, going forward, what do we do? So my approach was then to look at what governments need to do and how they should do it. So in the first scenario, question, I've got policy changes. These need to change in line with the trends that are affecting the whole world. We also have programming issues. It shouldn't be life as usual. Things have to change. We have to move with the times. Regulations, policies, and guidelines, they also need to adapt to the changing situation, to the changing social transformations. So that will then bring about an improved or a better way of trying to manage the transition. in the global economics. The how part, how do governments change? This approach is looking at three issues: strategy, structure, and skill. So on strategy, we are basically saying long-term planning becomes key. Scenarios, we have to come up with scenarios. Looking at the economic focus, what does it mean? Critical infrastructure renewal assessments to try and cover the gap because of an increasing population. They're putting pressures on the resources that are available. So we have to close that gap in a strategically positioned way. So behavioral insights is also important to enable one or every state to act in ways that will reduce pressure on these social support services. So in line with that, we also have to employ a number of tactics, for example, the use of outcomes and metrics to help ensure that funds are allocated to cost-effective programs. Flexibility, change of mindset as part of policy and planning, that will also, to a great extent, try and improve the capacity issues and also try and address unexpected challenges and opportunities that may arise. So all this, we also do not forget the use of technology. Technology is key in all this process, in the strategic process. The adoption of flexible, also look at affordable technologies and technology that is afforded, that is brought to where it is required on time. So all these form the strategy changes that the governments need to adapt. So if we then move on to the structural issues the government might want to address, we are saying here we need to shift toward becoming more active to engage the international partners, international institutions, to try and open channels of an increased and a more robust, interconnected trade. So this would like try and close all those bridges that were trying to close trade. So we also have to look at more connected policy arrangements within a certain defined policy domains. These have to be relevant as well in trying to address the so many issues that are coming about in a structural and defined manner. Under structural issues, we're also looking at the empowerment with greater funds and authority getting to cities to meet their responsibilities, because there are growing pressures on the economy and these cities have to deliver the required resources to the citizens. So accountability has also to be a part of the process. Networking through meaningful collaborations. We're going to look at what citizens can do, what other levels of government can chip in with, the private sector, the non-profits. What can they do to sustain key areas of government service delivery? This is trying to complement the government in a structural way. Flexibility and adaptive planning to facilitate greater risk-taking and more timely response to unanticipated issues. So this is basically what explains the structural element and how the government is going to change in trying to tackle the issues of global trends. Skills. With structure, with strategy, you need a human capital to really take issues with so much passion, with move on time and undertake to do the best possible approaches that can be employed. So when you're talking of skills, here we're looking at the government trying to focus on skills with greater capabilities and capacity in international awareness, global trends, like this whole study of what does the future look like and how possibly can we try and address those issues? So skills are required in that area to address those issues. We also have financial sophistication. It is also key because we need a deep knowledge of highly integrated capital markets so that we are able to tell what are the potential impacts, effects of any change that might occur financially. Systems thinking to understand potential benefits and risks, because there's always the other side of it in any case. So these are to do with technology use. The increased use of technology means that there are also benefits that we are deriving, but at the same time we also have risk. So right skilling means that we have to come up with roadmaps that try to address these gaps. Still on skills gap, trying to change and improve, we look at effective stakeholder engagement. Every party is important, including the use of new communication channels such as social media, trying to reach out to many at a lower cost. So there is low cost, high impact. So that is also an issue that can be looked at as a way of managing stakeholder engagement. There is also, in all this, there is risk assessments and change management to address complex risk issues with changes globally from structural, from strategy perspective. We are likely to face a number of risks, and there is going to be need to invest in risk assessment and change management. So the three critical ways that governments can change really give us the impression that we can do something and to a certain extent manage the greater issues that can come up. But what I also need to look at is how does it affect Higher Life Foundation? How does Higher Life Foundation come in? So we are getting closer home. And these are issues that we are tackling. I'm looking at the long-term planning. We have to plan, to consider changing trends and what the effect is. Obviously, there are indications that are going to come out of where there's greatest need. In our case, is it still Burundi, is it still Lesotho, or Zimbabwe, or any other new areas? What resources are required, and where? And do we have the capacity? We also have to relook at our strategy. Is it still relevant? Is education still the best strategy going forward compared to other growing needs? We have seen on the mega trend there, issues to do with food, water, and energy being real issues that are going to affect lifestyles because of the growth in demand and as a result the scarcities. So how does that affect us? We are giving food packs to our history makers. So does it mean to say we're going to double, we're going to triple, and now is it still a relevant intervention that is necessary? So all those issues. Embracing technology to keep abreast and improve on cost, on efficiencies, on operational gaps that might be there. Because we are saying the economy is changing. Socially, we are changing. And politically, there are also issues that are changing. So with the use of technology, we are trying to close so many gaps and improving our efficiencies. Increased focus on ICT training on our beneficiaries because of the growing use of technology. Definitely, it makes so much sense to make it a focus area and train, equip our ICT with the new advanced state of technologies that will help us to get that impact. Not just on beneficiaries, even our staff need to continuously develop, not just in IT, but in all other aspects to change the way we do things, adapt to the global changes, and also get a bit more competitive because the world is changing. With all this, is change going around, change coming in, change moving to the next stage, but we need to embrace and change the way we do things. So change management to avoid getting redundant is very important. So we are also going to look at those structural strategy and skills in trying to manage the change issues. So in that regard, we also have to increase our focus on research and research methods. We need to look at the best ways of doing things already discussed. And more to that, we need to focus on research and research methods. We need to be looking at the new trends, how best they can affect our work, and is it the right model that we are using, and how best can we increase our reach and at low cost. So we are looking at a number of issues, and we have to consistently and continuously apply our research on the ground. And lastly, we also look at risk assessment and mitigation. With these changes happening, there's going to be so much risk coming out as an organization or as an entity that we really need to look at it, work around the enterprise risk management matrices and mitigate their effects. So we have a wide range of issues that we can do as High Life, trying to move with the times. So in summary and to close, this is what we think back home we have to do in light of the global changes to 2030. So I feel challenged as an individual and part of this entity to then think outside the box and try and come up with the innovative ways of increasing our reach and our impact. I would like to thank you.